Hi, I'm Charles, and you're watching The State of the Republic.
Well, this was a huge news week. Due to the flood of events that occurred this week, I have decided not to do a more in-depth piece on one issue. I will cover workers' rights, unions, and the Nissan unionization vote next week. First off, General Kelly started his first week as White House Chief of Staff, almost immediately firing White House Communications Director and mobster who got whacked in the movie for talking too much, Anthony Scaramucci. Scaramucci had previously made extremely controversial statements to a New Yorker reporter about a fellow White House staff. Trump was also forced to sign the bipartisan bill sanctioning Russia, Iran, and North Korea, despite his objections. In response, Russia expelled U.S. diplomatic staff and seized U.S. diplomatic properties in Russia, and Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev accused Trump of being weak and handing his power to Congress. Sad. Several staffers on the National Security Council affiliated with Hermann Goering's uglier alcoholic brother Steve Bannon had recently been fired, leading to increased speculation that Bannon himself is on the way out. The White House also unveiled the RAISE Act, which would seek to cut legal immigration by 50%, and White House advisor and spokesperson for youthful baldness, Stephen Miller, used white supremacist talking points to promote it at a press conference. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, the RAISE Act was panned by Democrats and some Republicans, with its chances of passage ranging around -20, given that it will require 60 votes to invoke cloture, and they currently can't even round up the entire Republican caucus to support it. Congress also continued debt ceiling talks with no fruitful results, and Republicans are gearing up to hand out more tax cuts to the wealthy and to business in their so-called tax reform proposals. In better news from Capitol Hill, senators on the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee are preparing hearings to help come up with a bipartisan plan to help stabilize the insurance marketplace. Several Senate Democrats also introduced legislation creating a public option, allowing for a Medicare buy-in for those over 55. The Congress has also gone into the August recess, but the Senate will technically never be in recess thanks to procedural pro forma sessions locked in by Senator Lisa Murkowski. Such sessions removed the ability of Trump to fire people and make recess appointments. Speaking of people that Trump wants to fire, Attorney General and Confederate Keebler elf Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III. The Sessions Justice Department decided this week that they will target affirmative action policies as being discriminatory to whites. Oh yes, some still remember the days when black people shipped white slaves from Europe to Africa, forced white people into all-white schools to be the only eligible voters, and to take all the positions of power in American government. Wait. I'm being told that white people are actually the ones who've been oppressing black people for centuries, and that Sessions is a racist moron. Sessions announced an intent to pursue massive leak investigations and made a false equivalency between leaking to the press and spying for a foreign power. These efforts are in an effort to crack down on the free press because the press, quite frankly, is making this gang of idiots look like a gang of idiots. In other executive branch agency news, Betsy DeVos's plan to screw students has had a setback after Democrats and some Republicans condemned her efforts to allow a monopoly on the servicing of federal student loans. The Interior Department Inspector General will be opening an investigation into threats made by Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke against Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski ahead of the Trump Care vote. Trump this week also had a series of embarrassing statements revealed. Trump had an extremely partisan and unhinged speech in front of the Boy Scout Jamboree, where he attacked Democrats and recalled one of his old rich friends' yacht sex parties. Trump subsequently made up calls from the leader of the Boy Scouts praising him for his speech, and made up a call from the president of Mexico that supposedly praises immigration policy. The White House staff was then apparently dumb enough to allow him to do an interview with the Wall Street Journal. He said during the interview, quote, "You call places like Malaysia, Indonesia, and you say, how many people do you have? And it's pretty amazing the amount of people they have." He referred to his son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner, saying, quote, he's a good boy. He's not a dog, right? Trump also seems to still be stuck in the 2016 election, responding to a question about working with Democrats by talking about his electoral college margin. The next few statements from him from the interview are kind of a mixed bag of crazy. I mean, you don't hear the word Britain anymore. It's very interesting. It's like, nope. And, of course, I was last night in West Virginia, and I had farmers coming up to me and hugging me and kissing me because of the cattle stuff. The second set of embarrassing statements came after the transcripts of his calls with foreign leaders were leaked to the press. First, we will go over his call with Mexican President Peña Nieto. During the call, he referred to New Hampshire as a, quote, drug-infested den, and claimed he won the state even though he lost to Secretary Clinton. At other points, he also seemed to be stuck in the 2016 campaign, lying about his crowd sizes and saying that he won a, quote, large percentage of the Hispanic vote. But most pathetically, he begged Peña Nieto not to publicly say that Mexico would not pay for a stupid wall, saying after Peña Nieto reiterated Mexico's refusal, quote, but you cannot say that to the press. The press is going to go with that and it cannot live with that. You cannot say that to the press because it cannot negotiate under those circumstances. The other leaked call was with Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, and that didn't go well either. Trump spent most of the call complaining about an Obama-era agreement with Australia on accepting refugees. He complained that it was, quote, a stupid deal, and, quote, and that, quote, this is going to kill me. I am the world's greatest person that does not want to let people into the country. He also made hateful statements about the refugees, saying, quote, I hate taking these people. I guarantee you they are bad. That is why they are in prison right now. They are not going to be wonderful people who go on to work for the local milk people. And accusing them of potentially harboring the next Boston bomber. He ended the call by complaining, I have had it. I have been making these calls all day, and this is the most unpleasant call all day. Putin was a pleasant call. This is ridiculous. In West Virginia this week, Governor Jim Justice switched back to being a Republican. The billionaire coal baron was a Republican up until he decided to run for governor in 2016, even donating to major Republican groups. Who could have ever thought that a Republican coal billionaire who temporarily switched parties would ever go back to being a Republican? Justice also has connections to Russia, selling coal mines to Russians for $500 million and later buying them back for $5 million. Warning to Democrats: this is what happens when you don't back a real Democrat to run and instead back Republican light. We either lose or the candidate bites us in the ass. However, the news of the party switch was far overshadowed by further developments in the Russia scandal, with news breaking that Special Counsel Robert Mueller had impaneled a grand jury in Washington, D.C. to look at Russia's involvement in the 2016 election. This grand jury comes in addition to a previous grand jury in Virginia that was reportedly looking into Michael Flynn's foreign ties and activities. The grand jury is already issuing subpoenas in the case. Congress also introduced 2 bipartisan bills to protect Special Counsel Mueller from being fired arbitrarily by Trump. With the new developments in the Russia scandal breaking the same day, the party switch by Justice is like joining Mussolini's fascists the day he was strung up at a gas station with several extra holes in his body. Actually, it's almost exactly that. Trump's poll numbers fell to a new low of 33% in a Quinnipiac poll, or as Trump says, fake polls, and also, isn't there some polling college so I win anyway? To make matters worse, the poll was taken before some of the worst news of the week broke. This has probably been the worst week ever for this administration, and next week doesn't look good either. Trump has already begun taking a 17-day vacation in Bedminster, New Jersey, so people there better be prepared for a lot of yelling and whining. Finally, in a little non-political feel-good news, Martin Shkreli was convicted of securities fraud. The little weasel who jacked up the price of life-saving medication is going to jail. Shkreli was an inspiration to greedy, unlikable assholes with punchable faces everywhere. And now those people are only left with Ted Zodiac Killer Cruz, Mitch McTurtle, and Little Donnie.
Thank you for watching the program. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more interesting content.